so many ambush bugs.
Sure.
One of the first sales George and I ever went to, they were doing like 5 comics for $1 or whatever.
Yeah. There's two things.
And we were like, look, they have this giant stack of ambush bug number 1s. Mm-hmm. We'll take them all. Why would you buy them all?
There's two
Who would buy them all?
In the mix.
No one would buy all 5 ambush bugs.
Like,
come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics. Keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dale Bush.
So, once again, you can tell by the fact that I am talking that obviously Patrick is no longer with us again for the episode.
What? I'm literally sitting right here.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
I am like 2 feet away from you.
Yeah.
And also, I was with you and Molly Jane last week, and you never let me talk.
It doesn't sound right.
Like, I was even raising, like, shaking my hand around. I had to go back and edit myself in afterwards because the two of you, there's no room for me.
I don't know if that's true.
It's all like you talking and her giggling, and then
I just felt like you were absorbing all of our wisdom. You know, finally, 2 people who know what they're talking about are on Contest of Challengers, comics industry business podcast. And you were just like, let me get all this. Let me just absorb it.
I mean, I did take pages and pages of notes.
Pages of notes.
But it was just so I could put time keys as to where I could drop myself in.
Oh, okay.
Literally, like, I am interspersed all through the episode, but it's not like I listened to it and said, I'll go here. I just jumped to sections and said, oh, I got something for here.
I didn't listen to it either. That's
why?
fine.
Why would you? You don't listen to it when you're talking.
I don't.
So that's a bit of levity.
There's a joke for
and
it.
Also...
Much like Barry, there's the one joke.
This is the one joke for the episode. I'd go with him. He could take me. Whatever it was, one of those 2 lines.
Yeah.
And this is where we hypocritically always turn the heat off in winter to record, so you don't have to hear the atmospheric controls being picked up by the microphone.
Fan blowing.
But we are damned if we're doing that in the summer, because it's been a hot one this week.
Yeah, it's 91 degrees currently.
Yeah. And that was what would get to be in here as well, because, as you know, this is a basically a high-rise, and the heat rises.
That's true, it does.
So,
top floor.
Yeah. Top floor. Out.
Yeah, there you go.
Man, we could do FTR stuff forever.
Come on, let's go.
So I'm going to start with a tale of woe, and it is... I'm not married. I don't have children. And I assume that the worry you would have for a spouse or a child is severe. And, I mean, I have a dad and siblings and nieces and nephews and aunts and uncles, stuff like that. But immediate, like, there's a small disconnect of your own created family, if you will.
The things that you feel personally responsible for.
Well, and I don't mean like, you choose your family and your friends with that. I just mean, once you start worrying about other things. Yeah. But it almost feels disingenuous to say that short of finding out someone is terminally ill or dying or died, this may be, like, the worst news I could have gotten.
Yeah.
And I don't want to trivialize anybody's...
I said flat out, I would rather tell somebody that a loved one had died than give them the news that you got.
Yeah. I was out of town last weekend. I always start with the out-of-town part, but the out-of-town part has nothing to do with the story.
Right.
Nothing would have changed.
No, if you'd been in Chicago, it wouldn't have mattered.
And I'm going to omit part of some details in the story, literally for legal reasons.
Yes, for potential legal reasons.
But I always say while I was out of town, because it happened while I was out of town. But again, it doesn't matter. Over the past weekend, the storage facility in which I had stored my entire comic collection, that is mine and my brother George's. We've been collecting since I was 5 and he was 11. And over the years, we've gotten rid of some stuff. Like, at one point, I think we had like 102, 103 long boxes.
Sure.
And it was whittled down to a tight 79 long boxes, which is, if you do the math, about 24,000 comics.
From the 1970s up to the present.
Yeah. I mean, not counting going back and filling in holes in the 60s.
Sure, some Silver Ages.
Yeah. The entire collection was stolen from our storage facility. All of it. Everything. And I will go back in time. I got a call. I just finished doing laundry from my trip. And I got a call, a text from Molly Jane that somebody from the storage facility called and needed me to call immediately. So I call them. And at first, they're like, "Hey, how are you?" I'm like, "What is going on? No time for pleasantries. What is going on? First, can I get a good callback number for you? Because, we tried to call you and got your work number. That number is fine, but fine. Here's my cell phone number. What do you need?" "There's been some tampering with your lock." "Okay, what does that mean?" "Well, it means that someone has tampered with the lock and the latch." "Did someone break into my unit?" "All we can say is there's been some tampering." And I have 2 disc locks on the outside. I assume most people are familiar with the storage facility. It has a roll down metal gate and a little latch that slides into a cutout in the frame of the door.
Sure. Okay.
To keep it from going up.
Yeah.
And I have, over the years, I've used multiple storage companies for multiple things. I used to store my motorcycle out in the winter in one out in the suburbs. And I've used multiple companies. Several companies. Three different companies come to mind that I've used for storage facilities. And that's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 different units over the years. And I recall you used to have a unit as well. You had a yeah. I specifically remember going into yours and getting all of a lot of your dad's stuff out of it.
I don't remember that at all.
Oh wow, yeah.
I don't know whether it would have been. I mean, maybe my mom had one and I just kept it. I don't
Anyway,
know.
you know your way around a storage facility.
Sure. Yeah.
Most facilities have when you rent a spot, you're administered a code that gets you into the building. They have on-site security. They have cameras. They have posted hours where you're not allowed in the building after a certain time. Things like that, right?
Right.
And this, I recently gotten this new unit, and we talked about it on the podcast about how we needed to store overstock of supplies because of the pandemic.
Yeah, we were stocking up on things like boards and boxes, and those are very difficult for us to keep a lot of on-site in the store because they're just big and bulky. So Patrick had his comics in storage and some other items, and we thought, okay, well, why don't we just expand that space?
Yeah,
we can put store stuff, and then Patrick also has some room to work on his comics because they had basically just been sitting in boxes in various storage spaces for over a decade.
My comics were on metal shelves that I had bought, like double the amount you need because, not you need, but like you get a metal shelf and it's got like 4 or 5 shelves, right?
Okay.
Well, I wanted to go back to back with them, and I wanted to stack the boxes as tight as possible to save space.
Okay.
So you buy extra units to get more of the actual shelves that screw into it.
Sure.
And they were all in a 5 by 10 unit before. So they were stacked in front of each other. So all I had access to was like 3 units stacked back to back to back, and then shelves on the sides that couldn't hold a long box. Mm-hmm. They could hold short boxes though. So I only had access to the front half,
right.
to the front section, like the first, I don't know, whatever, 30 boxes or something. And then we had rented a space a few years ago to hold all of the shelving left over from Blue.
Right.
Because that had to go somewhere. So then we decided, all right, we should get a bigger space to be able to hold up this backstock and whatever, and then I could spread my books out. So painstakingly over like the end of last fall and into the winter, I merged those 2 into one, and I brought the shelves out, and I could put them all next to each other on a wall where you could see them all. Mm-hmm. And I did all this stuff myself. Lugged all them boxes.
Yep.
The shelves were starting to I've had those shelves for a long time, and they're not meant to hold that kind of weight because, as you know, comic boxes are not light.
Right.
So I'm like, I got to get new boxes. Plus, I want to spread them out a little bit so I could go through them because I literally haven't inventoried my comics in like 20 years.
Right.
And the last time I did it, it was analog. It was legal pads and writing everything down.
Not even note cards. Wow.
No, like there were note cards on front of some of the boxes that would say like Amazing Spider-Man, $250 to whatever.
Right.
But I hadn't inventoried what we had. The inventory I did have, which was all on paper, was in one of the boxes in the storage facility.
Great.
So anyway, I did some research, found out a fairly economical shelving solution, but I had 85 boxes, 79 long and 6 half magazine, what have you.
Right.
I needed shelves that were sturdy, but not super heavy that I couldn't lift, and economical and easy to build and whatever. So I think I spent about $800 on these red metal garage shelves from Home Depot. Coincidental that they're red. They look good as red.
Right.
And one of the things I didn't realize when I bought them is that they are basically held together by weight. Like, when you build the shelf, nothing really keeps the shelf clipped into the legs,
Sure,
except the pressure of what's on the shelf.
It's just gravity and weight. That's all.
So like some points they would just want to pop up.
Oof.
But it was a lot of moving boxes, and because I can't fit old shelves, new shelves, all the comics and everything in my storage space.
Right.
So there's a lot of like stacking everything as high as you can go here, and generally moving around. Anyway, I did that. I finished that a mere 2 weeks ago. May 30th was the day that I'd finished building those shelves and putting the comics on it, and they look great. Mm-hmm. I say they look great, but literally those boxes are like the same boxes I've had forever, and they needed to be changed out. And this summer was the big inventory everything, organize everything, see what you can get rid of, change the boxes, bag and board half of them because they're not bagged and boarded.
Right.
They haven't been bagged and boarded since you did it last.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a long time
I mean,
ago,
I would do batches, but I never did. Anyway.
Right. Like you would, stuff that you were buying recently, you'd bag and board, and occasionally, like, you would take it and you'd put it in, like, a front box or something just to be like, let's get it
the last
into the area, even if things aren't getting filed.
I switched to half boxes recently, so I could be like, I like literally had masking tape across the top. It'll say, 2019-1, 2019-2, whatever. Sure. Just more of a chronological storage for the setting. But so that's how the books were organized. You walk in, it's to the right, all down that wall. The left half, which was where I put the old gray rickety shelves, contained all of our current bag restock, magazine bag restock, a lot of the sound equipment from Blue, things that could fit on them but aren't necessary.
Sure. Toward
the end, it was all the pop vinyl overstock.
Oh, the holiday pops and like that.
Of which there's a lot.
Yeah.
It's like those shelves weren't full, but they had a lot of stuff on them. But like there's not a lot of stuff on those. Sure. And then in the back, it's all the grid wall from Blue, the shelves for Blue, the 3 red IKEA chairs that used to be in red.
Oh, yeah.
Luke's blanket. It's followed me to every storage space since I got it from him after that move. I put it over the boxes to keep all the dust off, Sure. And the 3 front tables that were at Blue stacked up.
That was going to be your workspace.
Yeah, and then a chair from here that used to be like my drawing table chair, so I could sit at one of those desks. And also a box full of tools. Okay. So I'm talking to the person from the storage facility, and I say, you know what, forget it, I'm just coming over right now. I had just sat down to have lunch. I don't care. I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, how could you, be... I'll show up in a few hours.
Yeah.
No, you have to immediately deal with it.
So I show up, and we go up to the unit, and already the lock is mangled. I mean, the clasp is mangled. One of the locks is missing. One of them isn't. One lock is still there, and I thought, did 2 locks save me? Could they not get through? No, they put it back to make it look like it was still there to not arouse suspicion. So the lock just pulls off, the door opens, and immediately I notice they're all gone. Every long box is gone, which is unfathomable to me because of how heavy they are and how hard it would be to move them all out.
Yeah, you can steal a box.
Yeah.
But stealing every box is how would you do that? How long would that take? How many people would it take? You're on not even the first floor of the building.
Yeah, on the second floor, so not real close to the elevator.
These things would have to be carted to the elevator taken down, offloaded, then gone back up, because there's only the one elevator.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, moving them in was like, god damn, like it took hours.
Yeah, and you don't want to go more than 3 levels high on those carts because
you're around corners and things like that. It's not just like a straight shot.
Well, we are both right now guilty of doing what we've done this entire time. We are assuming how we would do it. How do we know they didn't have industrial carts?
I don't
know.
Maybe they took them out through the roof, man. I don't know.
Yeah. So, and we'll get to this, but this whole time, Dow and I have been like, that would be impossible. And then you hear how they did it, and you're like, oh no, perfect sense. So everything's gone, and I am shocked.
Right.
I mean, we had in that storage unit, Amazing Spider-Man 2 through now.
Yeah.
We had Captain America 100. Like, I basically stopped collecting a lot of stuff around 2005. That's when I'm like, I don't need to have everything.
Sure. Stuff was getting restarted often enough where it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I getting a 30-issue series? Who cares?
But I'll tell you what, George and I had basically every Marvel and DC comic that came out from like 75 to 2000.
Yeah.
All of it.
So, I mean, think of like any first appearance key issue from any character that debuted from the Bronze Age up to the present, and it was in there. It was in that collection.
And then, as we got...
How many people who are in movies and TV shows now, you know?
Oh, yeah. And honestly, like, every time... Just, as you know, tragically, Tim Sale passed away today. And he was only 12 years older than I am. Yeah. But, when I hear that, I think, man, what a huge loss to the comic community. I'm so glad I don't have any of his work anymore.
That's like, because it's been a couple times this week. You did it with Sale, and you did it with somebody else.
George Perez.
No, but there was
Neil Adams.
That was in the Sale thing, but there was another thing in the last couple days.
Was it Ms. Marvel? I had every single issue of Ms. Marvel. That was what I still got.
I think maybe, but it was something was like an announcement or like someone had passed away. And you were like, I had all that stuff. Like, I had their books or whatever. And it was like,
I'm sorry. That's kind of a maudlin way to look at it, but not really. I mean...
But, I mean, like, not to segue, but, I mean, that's the significance of a collection like that, is it kind of ties you to the medium in a way. We see things through the prism of our own experiences. So, Tim Sale passing away, brings up in your mind, like, oh, I remember when I read Long Halloween for the first time, or I remember... getting, maybe you got a page of art, or you met him at a convention, or you bought a print, or you read an interview, or you watched a YouTube video, or you collected all of his covers, or whatever. And that's how we deal with the idea of, someone that we were a fan of no longer being with us. So the idea of, like, the gut instinct is like, oh, this thing that tied me to them is now like, no, that's gone now.
When we were doing the Here Initiative auctions for... the JLA Avengers, I'm like, I don't need to have one of those. I have all the original issues. Looking back, just letting your mind wander, it's like, oh, remember Frank Miller's Ronin? Had them all. I had all the Marvel and DC crossovers.
Yeah, so...
All of them. Even, like, the Treasury editions of Superman and Spider-Man, or Batman and Hulk.
Yeah. So, from my side of the story, Molly Jane was the one who'd taken the phone call from the storage space, and she texted it to you, and neither of us really had any theory as to what might have happened. My thought was like, it's funny that they're even texting, or that they're calling, because Patrick might actually be at the storage space, because frequently that day of the week you were there working on stuff.
And I literally had 2 cases of boards in my car that I'm like, I'll take them over Tuesday.
And I'm like, Jesus, like, did some automatic payment not go through, or...
I thought payment as well. I thought billing issue.
Like, it literally never occurred to me, like, the storage space got broken into because of the amount of stuff. And, like, we had heavy boxes of boards. Like, it would not be a thing. So anyway, time goes by, and Molly Jane's like, we haven't heard anything from Patrick. Like, I hope everything's okay. And I think she had texted, and you had said that the storage space had been broken into, and that everything comic-wise had been stolen. Her and I were talking about it because we were devastated. Like, obviously not as much as you were, but that's a huge blow. Like, it's the thing that was weird to me was that I don't really have anything like that. My collection is so much more recent.
Yeah, and you did, but you got rid of a lot. You got rid of yours.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like,
by choice.
I collected comics, but I don't have a comic collection anymore. I've got graphic novels, But, very few of them are things where they either can't be replaced or I would dig into them frequently. Like, if all my Yotsubas got stolen, I could just buy more Yotsubas. It's fine. My figure collection is the same way. It's all fairly recent stuff. There's obviously the loss of, like, time and money in the collection, but the sentimental value is, there's no nostalgia to it. It's just, I'm literally just looking at it going like, this is great. So it's weird, to me to not have any sort of corollary of, like, I can't say I know what you're going through. Like, I don't. I literally don't have anything like that.
But not each, but a lot of the books, I can remember where I was when I bought them. Mm-hmm. If I got them at a show, if I got them off a newsstand at a Jewel, or...
Can you just go back there and get more? Because that would help a lot.
I should, yeah. It's much easier that way. Why did I think of that?
Check that Jewel for Squadron Supreme #1.
Can you finish this podcast? I'm going to go to Jewel.
Gonna go to the white hen that no longer exists.
Gonna
white hen
go
doesn't
to
exist.
Lyle's Hobby and Craft in downtown Westmont to get all those books again.
Graham Crackers Comics at 5 East Chicago.
Yeah,
next to the Chinese food place and the bowling alley,
behind a printer.
That's now at Barnes and Noble, I think. That has been for like 20 years.
Is it, if it's even still that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Avengers 4, that's gone.
Yeah. So you've got an inventory.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny, a few years ago, my friend Andy was in San Diego, and he decided he wanted to start collecting old caps. Mm-hmm. So he called me and asked if it was okay, because he knows cap is my thing. I'm like, Andy, of course it is. But Andy thinks I have, like, the first 78 cap, like the original run. I have none of those.
No.
Well, I have none of anything.
They're all super racist, too.
I had none of those. Yeah, no, my cap collecting was... Avengers 4, Tales of Suspense, and then Captain America.
Yeah.
Just like that. But I mean, I remember, like, I had the first Black Widow, I had the first Hawkeye, stuff like that.
I think we were mentioning, like, I had shown you on my phone that, they're making a Wonder Man show for Disney Plus. And I want to say within 10 seconds you said, like, I had the first Wonder Man. I know, I'm sorry.
Good times. So...
Do you think George Jones is going to get a thank you on that? They can't, right?
They can't.
They can't possibly give him like a... But like, they're doing the LA stuff.
Sure, but he didn't create Wonder Man.
No, but he did the Wonder Man solo series.
Right. With Jeff Johnson, which was so good.
Yeah, Jeff Johnson's art so good on that.
Yeah. That was back when I was trying to break in the, like, 90.
Yeah.
I was test inking over some Jeff Johnson pages.
Oh, that's
from
nice.
Wonder Man, yeah. Yeah, he had a lot of his backgrounds were wide open. Plus, his figures didn't have any, like, they were kind of bubbly, so there's not a lot of detail in them.
Yeah, like they'll thank Jeff Johnson, they'll thank Steve Englehart and guys like that did like West Coast Avengers,
and they'll thank Ultron,
of course.
Sorry. So,
anyway,
this whole podcast will probably be me just being like, "Oh yeah, I had that." And also,
and that's fine.
If you want to do the math in your head, we're talking easily like $100,000 worth of comics.
Yeah, you had texted me with what you had estimated, and I immediately thought like that's very low. That's a very low estimate.
I was not in my right mind.
Yeah. No, I mean, you were pricing it out like, what is the lowest of lowball things if someone brought in that many boxes without even knowing what was inside? And it's like, if you knew that it was 70s through 90s mainstream comics, like, it's a different number entirely.
All the really fun adventure, like DC taking all those big swings with...
Chase.
But no, way before that. Like the Question era, but when they were doing the, like, Thriller.
Oh, sure.
And she's got 7 seconds to save the world.
Uh-huh.
And then you find out, like, each second is a person.
Sonic
she's seconded. So the
every published issue.
Every published issues. I mean, I could just get Barry Crane to tell me what happened, so that's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, like you'd said a couple days ago, not just that, but also like everything First ever did.
Yeah, every single First comic. Yeah. Paris Cullen's was my jam, so I had all Blue Beetle and all Blue Devil.
It's so weird.
Loved his stuff so much. So many ambush bugs.
Sure.
One of the first sales George and I ever went to, they were doing like, 5 comics for $1 or whatever.
Yeah. And, like, there's two things.
And we just were like, look, they have this giant stack of ambush bug number 1s. Mm-hmm. We'll take them all.
Like,
Why would you buy them all?
There's two
Who would buy them all?
In the mix.
No one would buy all 5 ambush bugs.
Like, away from the nostalgia aspects, there's two things that are just, like, two different kinds of buckets, basically, of things one is the, stuff that is super expensive now. Like the books that you bought from the 80s that you may have paid cover price for are now hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the ASM 300 that you bought, or 298 that you bought for cover price.
Yeah.
And kept in a box and was in great condition is now massively expensive.
Now,
but then in the other
did
bucket,
use the tattoo from the first Hobgoblin.
Oh,
from Amazing
260,
238.
238. Okay, there it is. Yeah, there it is on the spinner rack.
No. That is a
facsimile.
Yes,
that's a facsimile.
It is not there.
To be clear, these are facsimile books that are on a spinner rack, not regular ones. But the other bucket is the stuff that is not literally irreplaceable, but stuff that is kind of like Amazing Man issues.
Yeah.
Like, none of that's expensive, don't think. But they're not reprinting it, and they're not doing collections.
Like DC Challenge.
Where do you get stuff like that?
Do you remember Dalgota from Fantagraphics?
I remember the title, I never read it.
Yeah, okay. All Concrete?
Yeah, or like Elementals issues or something.
We had all the Elementals,
Who's ever reprinting Elementals?
Right?
So yeah, it's stuff like
the
that.
Earliest of early Jill Thompson work.
Yeah, it's true. I think early Azarella, too, at least like in a corporate sense, maybe.
Yeah. So, the way that these books were taken, and when I went into the facility, and I was immediately, I met another person who also had stuff. Well, so before I knew what happened to my thing, I met this guy, and he's like, they stole all my stuff as well.
Oh, man.
So
even before you went up to the unit, you were like,
I
knew
there was
Into.
theft. Yeah. And
because even in the back of my head, part of my brain was like, maybe the shelves fell over and they heard something, and they were like, something happened in your spot.
No, so they were all stolen, and we started thinking about how is that possible? How can somebody break in? Don't you have alarms? How can they take so much stuff out in the middle of the night and have nobody notice? Because they didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
What they had done was rented a space, apparently with bogus credentials, so they had their own access code, and once they're inside, they scouted for who knows how long. I mean, I bet the facility can say when, if they figure out what unit they were.
Yeah, I mean, they know, I would assume, and this is, as always, the assumptions, which means probably not correct or actionable, that they would have the codes that were used during the period that they were broken into, and they can sort out, who do we, and then when did that person rent a spot and whatever, and when did they come in with the codes and whatever. Anyway.
And I just mentioned all of the work I had done building the new shelves. Well, that took a lot of time, and I was there for hours for a couple of days. I didn't have my door open, even though you're not allowed to close your door while you're in the unit. It's against the rules.
Right.
I did have it closed, so all you could see was from calf down.
Right.
Mainly because I didn't want people poking in and looking at what I'm doing, but I was also playing music and whatever.
You want a little bit of privacy if you're going to be working there for hours.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that every time I've been at a storage facility unit, no matter what I was doing, if I see other people and their spots are open, I look away. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm violating their privacy or something.
Wow.
And I don't look at them and say, do they belong here?
Why would you?
Right. Why would you?
Yeah, it's... For one thing, though, that's not your job.
Yeah.
It's not your job to police or safeguard that space, although, as it turns out, maybe someone should have been, and maybe that could have been you.
But still, there's a natural curiosity of, what do you need a space for, you know?
I never had that.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Whenever I'd be there with you for the store, dropping stuff off or moving things around, I mean, I barely remember seeing anyone at all. Most times that we went there, there was maybe one other car parked outside, and the facility's so big that... And the corridors are so narrow and stuff that it's very easy to not... For there to be other people in the building and never to see them.
Oh, for sure.
And even then, I would mostly just see people, pushing a cart or whatever. I'd never know where they came from.
Well, ironically, one of the first days I was trying to do the condensing, the person in the space right next to mine was, there before, during, and after me being there.
Yeah.
So, whatever. That's how they got in, and then they stocked everything out. They must have seen my books then. I mean, if you see those boxes and you're not a comics fan, you have no idea what that is. But if you're a comics fan, you know exactly what that is. You know that as a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's mostly just the popularity of collectibles in theft right now. I mean, how many comic shops do we hear about on a weekly basis that have been broken into and people just grabbed high-value books and board books and boxes of stuff and ran out the door. I think people, I guess the people who are professional thieves know exactly what is worth stealing and what is worth, what can be flipped easily in a transparent way.
So they had plenty of access, and it turns out that there are very few employees in this facility, and also that there may not be anyone on staff on weekends, on Sundays for sure.
Yeah.
So they picture a pizza cutter in your mind.
Got it.
Now take the blade and turn it sideways rather than have it be parallel.
Okay. Perpendicular then.
Yeah, perpendicular, exactly. So they had like a little grinding tool like that.
Okay.
And that, what they did was they cut through the metal of the latch. They didn't touch the locks because the locks are hard to get through.
Yeah. The latch, though, metal's kind of thin.
They cut like 2 slits per lock, and the lock just falls to the ground.
Yeah. And when you told me that, the first thing I thought was like, why isn't anyone seeing that on the cameras? Like, if you saw that, if someone's cutting through metal, it's like, that's a warning sign, right?
Well...
And then you told me.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of answers to that. Like, those grinding tools are real powerful and go real quick. B, the metal is not very resistant. It wasn't like it was solid steel or anything like that.
But
and C,
could be kind of loud.
The cameras are, as we have found out, active recording subpar.
Yeah, unuseful.
So basically, once they broke into the unit and it's a weekend and there's no staff there, they can take their sweet fucking time unloading anything they want to.
Yeah.
Because whoever gives anybody a second thought if they're loading out?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you don't see someone actively breaking into a spot.
Yeah, once they're in, they're in.
If the gate's open and someone's like, I'm taking all these out, you're not thinking like, whoa, whose are those?
So they had time to look through a whole bunch of other stuff in the, some boxes of boards were open.
Yeah.
Some boxes of boxes were open. They just choose to leave those behind. So that's how they did it. And then they had all day to load up. And like I said, there were numerous other units that were hit. All that had, well, okay, I don't know. I've only spoken to some, not everybody who's been involved in who had things stolen. But the people that had things stolen either had collectibles or expensive tools. And the main person I've been in contact with, he had just that Friday dumped off a bunch of stuff that was just going to be there for the weekend.
Right.
Stuff that he had just, he didn't know he was going to buy. He came across a deal he couldn't pass up, spent, it was tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment.
Yeah.
All gone. And I'm specifically not saying what the other things were.
Of course. Yeah.
But yeah, just other things. The people that we talked to, I mean, everybody was from. I say we, but it was just me.
Yeah.
I say we because
it's yours and George's books.
Yeah. They were angry or heartbroken.
Of course, or both.
Yeah.
Like heartbroken because your stuff is gone. Angry because basically the one job of this facility is to make sure this stuff is safe.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have put it there if you'd known that they were going to be this lax about their security.
So everybody, well-meaning, has questions like, were they insured, or is there a lawsuit, or did you call the police? Just imagine that all those things are being done, were done, have been done. I talked to the police. I was there for hours on Monday. Talked to the detective on the case last night and gave him as much information as I can. He outright said that no identification... Can I say this, do you think?
I'd skip it, maybe.
Okay.
It was not good news.
No.
Basically, as kind of expected, there's been no good news on any of this. Like, one of the things that somebody had sent you pretty quickly was not a listing for your books because it was so fast, but just how easily, people are stealing this stuff, and you can just put, a cash offer, whatever, on
Facebook Marketplace.
On Facebook Marketplace, and then, you do an in-person deal, and it's cash only, and it's completely untraceable, and every time I see one of those, cash-only things for, collectibles, all I'm going to think is, those are stolen.
Yeah, sure.
If you don't want to do like a PayPal thing, if you don't want to go through eBay, if it's just like, here's pictures of the books, I will like meet you someplace and you will give me cash for them, is like, that sounds incredibly sketchy, because that's why this stuff is getting stolen like that.
Yeah,
like
the listings that our friend Ryan sent
yeah.
were all pick up, cash only.
Yeah. And people who are just like, here's photos of books, like nothing, no details, no grades, no nothing, because it's just, I stole these from someone, and I will take whatever amount of cash you want to give me for them.
It's weird at first, because that guy had a bunch of listings, and most of the listings were stuff that I had, but some of them were not.
Right.
I could definitely say, like, no, those are not mine.
Yeah.
But we immediately, thanks to you and Molly Jane, sent information out to all the comic stores in the area.
We did.
Just in case. These people seem like they're way more professional than to try to sell them, A, immediately, and B, right in the same town.
Yeah, and so Molly Jane had also posted something to a Facebook group to basically go like, hey, if anyone from out of our area gets contacted about this, like... But it's tough, because it's... And we've been on the other end of this, where people come to us with emails, or they come in person, they say, you know, my collectibles were stolen, and if anyone tries to sell them, please contact me. And it's very hard to do that. Like, the people who are most successful with getting their stuff back are people who are like, I had my CGC stuff stolen. These are the exact books, the exact grades. Here are the serial numbers.
Yeah.
So if anyone tries to sell them, like, I have, you know, eBay seller alerts for all this stuff just in case. But if someone tries to sell them to a store, like, you know that they're stolen. But when it's just like a very large collection, like,
The harder part now is dealing with insurance, because I can't prove that I had $100,000 worth of comics in there.
No.
I can show them photos of long boxes because I, thankfully, just to show, like,
here are these
you and
shelves
Luke,
I built.
just the scale of what I was doing. Like, hey, here's all my, like, look, George, here's all of our books where we can see them all for the first time in like 15 years.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I have the photos of the empty shelves.
Right.
Here's a weird little thing that I hope no one ever notices, is that the empty shelves are the new shelves that, after they'd been robbed.
Right.
The full shelves were the old shelves to say, look how pretty they look all spread out next to each other.
Uh-huh.
I hadn't taken photos of the books on the new shelves.
That's how recently it was done.
Yeah. But just so if anybody noticed, like, those are the wrong shelves. Well, if you turn around, those shelves are right there. I just moved it, whatever.
Right.
Anyway. And I don't know many comic collectors who have their full collection insured for the full value. The added expense that would cost just on a monthly basis is a ton. So
yeah, I don't even know what the premiums would be on, like, insuring $100,000 worth of comics.
And also, how do you prove the value of 24,000 comics? Like, how can you say, oh no, they were all in mint condition, you know?
Yeah, I mean, so there's probably online sites now that are really good about, you plug in, like, what book you have, and they give you, like, the market value as of right now. And I assume if you expand that out to, I uploaded a CSV file of every book I have, you can get an up-to-date, you know, right now, right now,
I want them all to have
worth this much.
photos, so I can just go through one at a time and go, yes, no, yes.
I bet there is. I bet there's a real easy, like, just flag the books you got.
There's a lot of really great phone apps that I even, like, I downloaded this one. I even bought one of them. Never did it.
No, and I mean, some of that stuff is tricky because I think it goes up like barcodes, and you had a bunch of pre-barcode stuff.
Yeah.
Or at least stuff that was direct market only.
So there may be an insurance payment, but at most it's $5,000.
Yeah.
And also, I submitted my claim immediately.
Right,
the next day they came back asking for more information, which was literally every question they'd asked the night before. So I sent it back. Now they have a form that I need to fill out with all the things that were taken and their values. And then, stupidly, it's an Excel sheet that is basically horizontal.
Okay.
So it prints out weird.
Yeah.
And you have to get it notarized by a notary.
Unbelievable.
And where you get it notarized is the seam between the two, like,
unreal.
They cut, like, who designed this page? So
shockingly, they don't seem to care too much about making it easy on you.
all my page says is, the 79 long boxes, 23,700 comics, 47 years worth of collecting.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's not gonna count for anything. Like the other person that I've been dealing with this with, they have receipts and things because they just bought all their stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. Mine is a collection, not...
I mean, we can probably get a receipt for that Transformer.
Yeah, so also on the way out, I had the blue Captain America shield from Winter Soldier.
The stealth one, right?
Some piece of an AEW ring, a toy, not a real ring, and a brand new Transformer that... What was it?
Black Zarek. Transformers Generation Select Black Zarek Titan class. A great big figure that we'd gotten from one of our suppliers, and I told Patrick, I have no room for this right now. Can we put it in storage for the time being?
So I did.
And that got put in storage maybe a week before the storage space got hit.
Yep. So we lost those 3 action toys
left
as well.
it in the back room. It'd probably still be there.
They did not take all the cases of Pop Vinyls.
No. I wish they'd only stolen the Pop Holiday figures. Yeah. Please take those.
So that's where we're at. My entire collection is gone, and it randomly hits me throughout the day.
Of course. Because it's a thing that has been a part of your life for so long that the idea of it not being there is something that you will forget about.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's a defining characteristic. It's not like, oh, there's Patrick Brower. He had 79 long boxes of comics.
Especially because you would have them in a storage space. Like, they weren't physically in your,
Nobody knows.
Your life.
Most people don't know that I had those. But the accumulated knowledge of reading those books is what fuels me as a retailer. Like... Yeah.
That connection.
Andrew, who works for us, is very knowledgeable about Silver Age stuff because he's actively seeking out and reading it now.
Right.
My knowledge for those things is fuzzy because I read it when they came out, and that's it.
Sure.
So it's just the last 47 years worth of comic reading that gives me the knowledge that I have to do this.
Right.
And, I mean, I still have a ton of graphic novels.
Sure.
I had a lot of art books.
Yeah.
I have a spinner rack of unread books from the last, couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And then I was starting toward the end, I was getting a lot of True Believers and facsimile editions because they strike that nostalgia. And it made me even happier if I was buying one of a book I already had.
Sure.
Now that's my whole collection. Whatever George hasn't read, whatever I haven't read, and what I haven't filed yet.
You have just the shittiest comic collection.
I really
for
do.
A retailer.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
I think I teased you because I said that you had more Cap Pop vinyls than you do Cap comics. Like, what sort of fake nerd thing is that?
I will say that this week was my birthday. It was yesterday.
It was.
And my very good friend, Stephen Davidge, who had already bought me a signed Superchunk album, the most recent album, when we'd all seen them last week.
We did, which is a great show. Man, oh man.
Which is where the picture for last week's episode came from, of you and Molly J.
Yeah.
Oh, low battery warning on my phone now as well. He came into the store on my birthday and gave me a gift and said I could not open it in front of him. And then when I did open it later, it was Captain America 117, the first appearance of the Falcon. That I guarantee you is his personal copy that he just pulled out and said, you get this.
Which is nice.
That's beyond nice. That is amazing.
I just mean in the sense of, like, beyond the value of it and giving up something for your collection, the idea that, like, you are starting a new collection with this story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that isn't just like the first Falcon. It's like, this is one, and you have that story now. You can tell that part of it.
I just did. You heard it.
And it was nice. I think that's very nice.
And then this is a question I'd ask both you and George.
Mm-hmm.
Do I quit? Do I not buy comics anymore? Like,
by which you mean single issue comics?
Yeah. What's the point?
I mean, I the only thing I get single issue comic wise is Knights of the Dinner Table. That's it. I think I bought was there a Power Pack comic or something that came out? Like a one shot where I'm like, I'll get that. Oh, it was for the Legacy issue, like 63 or something.
Oh, sure.
Like, sure. But I didn't buy like the new Ryan North miniseries. I just bought the graphic novel when it came out. Same thing with, anything I buy really is it's just graphic novels for the bookshelf. Like I don't get single comics besides KODT. And it's not that I don't like them. I read them. I read a ton.
You just don't need to own them anymore.
I don't need to own them in that form. In my life, I don't need boxes of comics. I just don't.
I will say that this will make moving a little easier if I have to move.
Yeah, we'd had that discussion of like, Patrick, if you moved, would you move the boxes into your house or would you leave them in the storage space?
And I immediately told the person at the storage facility, I said, I'm going to need a smaller space.
Unless those books are coming back real soon, you know?
Yeah. And then they
Otherwise.
said, oh, we've got some of this size. Did you want to see one? And I said, not right now, I don't.
Nope.
But it made me realize, like, I had full runs of Walking Dead, Invincible, every image number one from the original 7 guys,
right?
And like up through runs of 25.
Some of those we should replace.
Yeah, well,
Shadowhawk number 1.
I think I quit Spawn at like 50.
Sure.
But I had Savage Dragon for, I don't know, like 100 maybe.
Sure. And yeah, probably stuff you're not even thinking about, where someone will announce a movie or something, and you'd be like, "Oh,
yeah, I had that.
I had that first one."
Anyway,
George
had said that because we just jumped on Nightwing when Tom Taylor took over. Like I wasn't buying Nightwing,
right?
But like, I'll buy these. These are so much fun.
Yeah, I'm sure you bought the original ones. You bought the Dixon.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah.
But since like Rebirth and stuff like that, and New 52, you weren't buying it then.
Well, we died in those issues. I couldn't read them.
It's true. Kyle Higgins blew up our store.
So basically, George said, if you find something you like and you want to own, buy it. And also, since he's a Spider-Man fan, he's like, Spider-Man just started over. We can keep getting those. Right? Let's like starting a new number 1. Well, if you go with the legacy numbering.
Yeah, and so, I mean, getting to his point, like, that's something I think about a lot, and I adhere to very poorly, but it isn't a piece of advice I will frequently give people when they think about collections, and when they think about maybe how daunting it can be physically or financially to collect something. Your collection is just what you've collected.
Yeah.
Like, your collection doesn't have to be every issue of Amazing Spider-Man. It can just be the Amazing Spider-Mans that you've bought and saved. So the idea of like, yeah, I wouldn't say go back and get everything you've lost or go get full runs of all those books because you don't really need them. What's the point? But, I mean, there's nothing stopping you from continuing to get books that you really love or series that you've really loved and then just let it build from there.
Yeah. I will say that...
It doesn't have to be all or nothing is what I'm saying.
We have Amazing Fantasy 15 and Amazing Spider-Man number 1 in a safe deposit box. Mm-hmm. So those are saved. And for Christmas last year, I bought George years ago on Facebook, and I think I talked about this a while ago, but I'll mention it again. Somebody had done a thing like, hey, here's the first comics I ever got, which made me like put together a little portrait of all the first comics I ever remember buying. Mm-hmm. Those are all gone.
I had those.
And then George did that too. Mm-hmm. And this was like 12 years ago.
Right.
Well, last year for Christmas, I bought him every book that was in his photo.
Oh, it's nice.
And like some of them were dirt cheap, a couple of bucks. The issue of Thor that they had was the first appearance of him, the future Adam Warlock.
Who's going to be in a movie.
Yeah, so that one was a pricier one.
Oh, no.
And then some of the pictures he had were so grainy, I had to do some pretty decent detective work to be like, what issue number is this Teen Titans?
Yeah.
But he had a couple of Caps, a couple of Batmans, a Teen Titans, a Flash. Yeah. So we've got those, because I gave those to him.
Those are in his house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those count as well.
The thieves probably did not also hit his house. That would be weird.
The thing about George's viewpoint of all of this is he had stopped considering our collection as our collection, and as he started thinking of it as Challengers collections.
Oh.
Like Challengers would need to sell those books to make money for the store. So he kept saying,
that
like...
might have been a possibility later this year, but not happening now.
He kept saying, like, I feel really bad for you. Parker wants to do something nice for you. I'm like, it's not me, it's us.
Yeah.
These were ours.
Yeah.
I mean, he was what... I say it's our collection since I was 5 and he was 11. He bought everything we had up until like 90 when I started working in the industry. Then I took over buying.
Right.
So all of like the stuff that's worth the most money, he bought. He bought Conan 1 through 6.
Yeah.
At a Chicago Comic-Con, you know?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it's not just my loss, it's his as well. Yeah, that's where that stands.
Yeah.
No idea. We're never going to get those back. Never.
It feels unlikely, unfortunately. Again, just like when I was contacting other stores, they were like, do you have any more information? Like what was in the boxes or whatever? And it's like,
everything.
Decades of comic books. Like,
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, people aren't going to try and sell 70-something boxes to store. They're not going to pull up in a box van and go, here's my collection, what are you going to give me for it?
Well, I'll tell you what. If you're a local store and somebody brings you a box of Spawn 1 through 50, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, although if someone shows up and they have every first comic ever made, that's Patrick's collection.
Also, if
no one else is going to show up with that.
If they have doubles of every Grimjack, that is definitely my collection.
That's the giveaway. Look for those. Look for Grimjacks.
Every Constantine, every Hellblazer, every
want,
Sandman, a lot of doubles of those.
Any store listening to this, if you are in, especially if you're in the Chicagoland area, if someone calls you up and is trying to sell a collection, ask them for Grimjacks. Say, I got a guy who needs all the Grimjacks. Do you have all the Grimjacks? And if they say yes, contact the police.
Nothing Grimjacked, Al. The Grimjack case files, which was the Grimjack reprint series.
All the Crossroads issues.
And the one thing...
Crossroads, was that the name of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they did all those Grimjack not omnibuses, but I think they called them omnibus, whatever.
Sure.
Reprint graphic novels. They never finished the series. No. There's one volume short of all the Jim Twilly stuff, which is the best.
Better email Mike Gold and see if you can make that happen. Light a fire.
I have every Grimjack graphic novel, but they never did the last one.
Yeah.
I even sacrificed one of my copies because they needed it for the reprints.
Yeah. And
that's why I have that vinyl banner in the stairway.
Oh, yeah. It's a good banner.
Yeah. It's showing its age, though, but I don't know that they were... Anyway. So... Moving on, there were other things briefly I wanted to touch on that don't require police or detectives. I was in Asheville, North Carolina. North Carolina!
Thank you, Justin Roberts.
The Dapper Yapper himself.
You can buy that t-shirt on ProWrestlingTees.com.
Right.
And maybe shop AEW.com, but I don't know.
For my good friend Luke's wedding last weekend, and time worked out pretty well that the first set of things I got to do when I was there a week ago right now was hit some comic shops. Because there's a bunch, and they're real close to each other.
Yeah, I assume stuff in Asheville isn't that spread out.
No, it really isn't. And even, we went to 3, and then I drove past a 4th. But just like Chicago, you got so many comic shops, and they're all just so different from each other.
Yeah, which honestly was not what I expected. You'd show me some photos, and my expectation would have been very back issue centric across the board, combination comic and card and sports memorabilia and frisbee golf and paintball stores.
Right, sure.
You know, maybe a small rack of comics in a much larger, like, vintage toy store sort of thing. And you did not have that experience at every shop.
No. So I think I forgot to tell you this, but the first one we went to is called Asheville Comics. Mm-hmm. And it was wide open, bright, checker floor, black and white checkered tile. From the outside, they looked a little bit, how would you call it? Those are the blue posters.
Oh, sun faded.
Sure. They get hit with the sun so hard, they covered their windows top to bottom with posters, and all those posters were completely color washed out.
Yeah, they were bright blue. It was, I mean, it almost looked artistic. It was kind of neat.
But what I didn't tell you was this was a long, like, strip mall.
Yeah.
As everything is there.
Of course.
A store or two down from them was Asheville Games.
Okay.
And at the very end of the lot, Asheville Cards.
All of them?
So they had 3... same logos, just changed the comics with...
That's interesting.
Yeah, so they had 3 separate stores from the same company.
I think Tate's did that, right? Like, didn't they do, like, comics and then they did, like, a game shop, like, somewhere else in their strip?
No, you're thinking of Third Eye. Third
Eye
Games.
But this was years ago.
Okay.
I thought Tate's did a similar thing where, like, something opened up and they were just like, let's put our board games and card games and stuff in here.
I did that briefly.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the neat things was they had custom... Asheville Comics, that is. I'm going back to that. They'd custom made every single rack with that really thick, like, dual-wall plywood. So it really... Only one shelf that I could see was bowing from the weight. Mm-hmm. And they were all on casters, so they're all modular. It was all unfinished wood, and I told Amber, the woman working, I'm like, you know what, normally I hate the look of unfinished wood, but because every single piece has that, now that's an aesthetic, that's a design choice.
Yeah.
And because they're all on wheels, they could move everything around and open the floor up for movie nights, dance parties, whatever, pro wrestling, whatever you want.
Sure.
So it was a fun store, and I picked up little did I know, I'm like, oh, I don't have these two facsimiles. I'll buy this Fantastic Four annual and this Green Lantern, Green Arrow, the original My Ward is a Junkie issue that I owned. Little did I know I'd be buying it for the only way I have it. Anyway, so real nice, wide open, a lot of fun gadgets like pops and blind boxes and stuff. What I forgot to tell you is every single store out there had multiple of the neon blacklight Galactus pops.
Oh, okay.
And I mean like 5, 6, 10.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can sort of see it. Like, we got a bunch when they first came out, and I think we got a couple more when they reissued them.
So I took photos of the outside and the inside of 2 of the stores and just the outside of the third. And I asked each time, and Amber's like, oh, sure, but is it okay if I'm not in it? And she dives behind one of the racks. Like, I would have slowly let you walk out of the frame. It's okay.
Yeah.
Then we went to Comic Envy, which is the store that Luke currently shops at, and it was a whole different experience. It was a more of a narrow store, kind of like ours, but a lot of, those original wire racks we had with the wheels in the beginning?
Yep.
Like that.
Okay.
Bagged some of their books, but not all of them. And the piles on the shelves were really deep.
Yeah, I don't love that.
It was a little messy. Allison, the woman who worked there, was very talkative, very friendly, very on.
That's great.
Really happy to talk about. Honestly, Mark Russell came up a lot in these stores.
Oh, okay. Is
well,
he from there?
Well, no, but you've got Luke and James, who are both huge Allred fans.
Sure.
And what he's doing next is the Superman book with Mark Russell.
That's right. Yeah.
And Allison had just read Flintstones over the weekend.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And no one talked about Steve Pugh? Weird.
Yeah, no one did.
Weird.
No, I'm going to even edit out the fact that you said his name.
Weird.
I am not. Steve Pugh is a master.
Yeah, he's great.
And then the final shop we went to was called Pastimes, and it's basically Dark Tower.
Okay.
For anybody who's been to Dark Tower in Chicago, it's that.
Sure.
There was the only store that we went to that didn't have a woman working, and it was a heavier set, kindly Southern gentleman who was sitting behind the counter, long front counter, holding court with a couple of people, standing around the counter,
sure, listening
to him talk.
Sure.
But we walk in, and Luke is in a Abraham Lincoln vampire hunter shirt.
Okay.
Like it's a bat, but with Lincoln head, and he's got little fangs.
Okay.
I think that's what it's from.
Sure.
I'm just in my normal look.
Sure.
And James is wearing a Sisters of Mercy t-shirt. James has long black hair. We walk in, and the guy behind the counter goes, "You folks in town for the Cannibal Corpse concert?" We were not.
Oh.
Yeah.
I just assumed you were.
Yep. Although James did tell him that we were in town for a wedding, a Cannibal Corpse themed wedding, but we were not in fact going to the show. That guy was so friendly, and he also started talking about the Allred Superman book coming out. But at that point, I'm like, I've heard this enough. I'm going to excuse myself from this conversation. And they were the one that had long boxes of back issues, and I'm like, while I'm here, I want to dig through and see if there's any early '70s Marvel stuff that I don't own that is just buy randomly,
Right. Just to have bought
Maybe
something.
there's an Astonishing Tales I don't have or something. Their back issues were only from the 90s and up. So nothing I didn't already have.
Sure. Well, at the time.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I forgot.
Oh, no.
And the last store I didn't get to go to was called Morgan's, and Morgan is being touted as the first female-owned comic shop in North Carolina, but I do know that Allison also owns Comics Envy, but she didn't. I guess Morgan owned it first. Morgan's had a giant Frank Miller Dark Knight close-up mural on the side of the building, which I caught from a block away. But the one, not the lightning bolt silhouette, the cover to one.
Right.
You know that sold today, that original piece of art?
The cover to issue 1 of Dark Knight Returns.
The cover to issue 1 of Dark Knight Returns. It was the auction ended today. If you remember that cover, it's just a silhouette of Batman jumping.
Yeah.
A solid blue cover, a white lightning bolt streaking down the back.
Right.
So the majority of that work was Lynn Varley.
Right.
Can you guess what that cover sold for?
$250,000.
$2.4 million.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. $2.4 million for a small silhouette.
Collectibles market's going insane.
A small silhouette of Batman.
Historical significance.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when Frank Miller dies, Dark Knight Returns is going to be mentioned in the first sentence of his obituary.
Oh, for sure. Not Frank Miller Presents?
Not Holy Terror, no.
Aw. So, Morgan's Comic had that on the outside. I didn't get a chance to go in that store. But it was great because I thought I'd maybe get a shot at seeing one store. Mm-hmm. I got to see 3 of them.
That's great.
And yeah, that's exciting.
It's triple the amount you hoped for.
I bought stuff in the first 2, but I didn't feel that bad because James and Luke bought stuff as well.
Great.
And definitely in the last store. And then we also hit, as recommended by our good friend Jermaine Exum, Lord Retail himself recommended we hit a store called Orbit, which is mainly a DVD store.
Okay.
But they do like a lot of horror memorabilia and some fun blind box stuff, and I bought a bunch of gifts for people there.
Nice.
And I was talking to the guys there, and they used to sell comics, but they weren't passionate about it, and they're like, there's so many comic shops in this town, so we got rid of it entirely. Yeah, so that was a neat little thing as well. It's kind of like, I would imagine, their version of Bucket of Blood. Okay. Minus the paperbacks.
Sure.
And then they had like a video game, like used video games in the back, but I didn't go that far.
Sure.
And then Luke and Tanya got married, and it was great, and it was so good to see all those people.
Congrats.
It was fun because most of the people that I was hanging out with were at one point Challengers customers.
That's awesome.
They all just moved away.
Yeah.
So there you have it. I'm sorry, everyone listening. This was a very depressing episode, and B, a very Patrick talking heavy episode.
That's okay. We didn't let you talk a lot last week.
That's true. And honestly, it's all stuff that Dallas heard before all week.
It's true.
If anything else happened in the industry, I guess we'll get to it next week. Thanks for not stealing my comics.
And
I assume, if you're listening, you did not steal my comics.
And keep reading your own comics, not Patrick's.
And keep insuring your comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.